guys, Marcellus Williams, aka TheSwolefessor, here to educate you on health, fitness, social well-being. And today, guys, is gonna be the last workout video that you guys see from me for a while. So let me get into exactly what's going on for today. You guys saw yesterday my last heavy peaking day, which was deadlift focus, and all of last week you saw, like, you know, the heavy peaking day for each day: squats, bench, deadlift. Well, for this week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday are all going to look exactly the same. It's my deload week, so I'm coming in doing 3 sets of 3 on squats, then immediately 3 sets of 3 on bench, then immediately 3 sets of 3 on deadlift at 75% of the maxes that I'm going to be trying to hit at this meet. So whereas last week everything was all, like, you know, 90+%, this week everything's only just 75%. Now ordinarily a deload would be anywhere between, like, you know, 40 to 60%. Like, that's usually on average what people do for a true deload. Mind you though, I'm still technically 2 weeks out, so I'm not trying to, like, you know, deload too much, then do absolutely nothing the week of the meet and go in feeling a little bit cold during the meet. So I work at 75% for this week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Then on Monday and possibly Wednesday of next week, which is meet week itself, I come in and do the same thing, 3 sets of 3 on squat, bench, and deadlift at 60% of my predicted maxes, just to get the movement in, keep the nervous system feeling primed and ready to move the weight on meet day. So I'll definitely come in next Monday and do that at 60%, possibly that Wednesday, it just depends. Last time around I only did it on a Monday and that worked out pretty well, so I may stick to that. But on the flip side, in terms of this week, I'm a little bit happy just because I don't have to. So as far as the big three, it's still kind of like because, you know, last week the intensity was high but the volume was very, very low. Well, this time around on the big three, the intensity is low and the volume is low, but I get to do a little bit of accessory work. So after the big three, I get to do one back movement, which for me is probably gonna be either weighted pull-ups or weighted chin-ups. I get to do some little isolation work if I so choose to. So I'll probably do, like, you know, lateral raises, face pulls, a bicep movement, and a tricep movement. And the reason that I'm able to do that this time around is because last week I wasn't supposed to do any type of additional accessory work, just to make sure that when I came in on those days and had to go heavy, everything was going to be on point. I wouldn't be able to be like, oh, my bench didn't feel great because, you know, I did some tricep press downs, or oh, my deadlift didn't feel great because I did weighted pull-ups, things like that. But this time around, since everything's so light, I know that nothing that I do as accessory today is really going to impact me on, you know, Wednesday when I come in and do the same thing. And then of course the week of the meet, if I come in on that Monday and Wednesday and do just the 3 sets of 3 on the big three, that's it. No additional accessory work at all whatsoever. But I'm glad I get to do some this week because, you know, as much as I love the big three, I'm not just a traditional powerlifter. Your boy likes the accessory work. But anyway, about to get in here, get some work done. Tony's actually going to be joining me, and then our friend Tia may be joining us as well. You guys have probably seen her on my Instagram, but you've probably never seen her on the channel, so you'll get to meet her. Anyway, let's get right to it. All right, guys, so we got Tony over here, about to get it in. Y'all ain't seen him in a minute. What's up, Tony? Say hi to the people.
Man, time to come back to working out every now and then, man. You know, I'm busy training something else, man. Yeah,
this is Tia. Like I said, you guys probably seen her on Instagram. Never seen her on film. But, you know, she's shy and stuff right now, but she's gonna put in the work. So basically what's about to happen, guys, is, like I said, I'm working up to 3 sets of 3 deload. They're gonna work up to 3 sets of 3 heavy though. Like, they have no reason not to go heavy, so we're gonna push it today.
Alright guys, jumping in for a voiceover really quickly, just because I figured this would be the perfect video to actually talk to you guys about deloading, in the sense of, like, what a deload is, if it's beneficial, if you need to deload, how often you should deload, all that good stuff. Because I feel like I've just been showing a lot of workout stuff lately. Mind you, I want to be able to take you guys through, you know, the entire peaking process for this meet, and the rest of this week will be informative content. As I mentioned, this will be the last workout video you guys see from me for a while, up until my meet. However, this is still an informative channel, and therefore I feel like I should try to give you guys as much informative content as possible, even with these workout videos, and hopefully you guys do take something away even from the workout focused videos. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So most of you probably already understand what a deload is and what the purpose is. It's essentially to help you recover. It's a form of active recovery. Basically, yes, you are still lifting weights, but you're either cutting the volume back. So that's one way of going about it. A lot of people, they stick with relatively the same amounts of weight they've been using, but they cut back on the volume. So for example, if you were maybe doing 3 sets of 10 with a certain amount of weight, maybe you cut that back to 3 sets of 5 or something of that nature. Another way of going about it is that you lower the intensity, meaning like you may stick with the same sets and reps, but you just lower the amount of weight you're using. And then the traditional way, and probably the most optimal way to go about it, is to decrease both. You're going to decrease both the weight itself, so the intensity, but you're also going to decrease the volume. And basically what this allows you to do is to continue to work on the movement patterns themselves, but it's something that you can easily recover from. So your body's still recovering from, if you just finished a 12-week cycle, or you just finished like, a very hectic program and you just tested your max, it allows you to come back, recover, so that when you get started with your traditional strength training once again, you can come back stronger, feeling really fresh, feeling ready to go. And it also helps with plateaus, guys. That's a big thing. Like, oftentimes when we hit plateaus, aside from the fact that, diminished returns are a very real thing, the longer you keep lifting and the stronger you get, the slower rate of progress you're going to have. The reality is that sometimes it's just the fact that your body can no longer recover from the amount of work you're putting it through. It's not that you're not strong enough to continue to move the weights that you are. It's a matter of, okay, are you able to effectively recover from it? Which is why, keep being aware of your max recoverable volume comes into play, for the mere fact that as you get stronger, think about it. With a lot of beginner-based programs, even though the volume may not seem that high, doing 3 sets of 10 on squats 3 times a week isn't that hard for a beginner. Why? Because you're probably not lifting that much weight starting off. Doing 3 sets of 10 with 135 3 times a week isn't a big deal. It's pretty easy to recover from. Now imagine doing 3 sets of 10 with 315 plus. Doing something like that 3 times a week, that's going to be a lot harder. So even though, yes, as you become a more intermediate advanced lifter, your recovery technically gets better, you have to keep in mind though that your recovery doesn't improve as much as your strength does. You're going to get a lot stronger, a lot faster than your rate of recovery is going to improve, which means the fact is, even though yes, your recovery may be better than a beginner's, your workload is also much, much higher than what a beginner's is. So keep that in mind as far as learning how to compensate for that. Now, a big question is like, okay, well, do I even need to deload? A lot of that can depend on your programming. Certain styles of concurrent training where you're constantly cycling out from movement to movement, you technically may not need to ever do a deload, for the mere fact that that is one way of deloading. One way of deloading and not hitting a plateau is if you cycle out your movements every now and then. Now, if you do more of a concurrent style of training that's more closely related to like DUP, daily undulating periodization, where you're working with various rep ranges, that's another way to avoid having to hit a plateau or doing a deload quite as quickly. Like those of you who've ran the program that I was on previously, which was based off concurrent training in DUP, understand that because you're working with various rep ranges throughout the week, you pretty much aren't really ever going to burn out on any of those rep ranges, or it's going to take a lot longer because you're not doing, heavy triples 3 times a week, but you're not doing mad high volume 3 times a week either. With that being said, you will, since you're not cycling out movements, you may still eventually get to the point where you feel like, okay, I'm not recovering quite as fast as I was. I've gotten a lot stronger than when I first started this program, and as such, you may need to do a deload. So as for when you should deload or how often, that varies from person to person, depends on what type of programming you're on, and as well as like if you're actually paying attention to your volume. Like there's some people where they break down their volume down to like the smallest percentage that they can so that they can make sure they're regulating everything correctly to maximize recovery. So for someone like them, they may be able to deload, every 12 weeks or every 3 months or so. They can go longer periods of time without doing a deload. Other people, it may be something more like every 6 weeks, and a lot of it just depends on the intensity that you're using. I like to personally deload anytime before I go from one program to another. So for example, I didn't this time around, but when I go from, whatever my off-season training is into an actual powerlifting specific program, I need to make sure that I do a deload just so I can be fresh and start that powerlifting program off correctly. And then I also do a deload at the very end of my powerlifting prep, as you guys are seeing right now, in order to prepare me to lift the most possible amount of weight come meet day. So for me, that's pretty much comes down to about every 3 months or so. But once again, it just depends. I've gone much longer periods of times without having to deload, but a lot of it just depends on like what I'm doing, like if I'm switching programs or if I'm running concurrent training, etc. But the main thing, guys, is that I personally, as I've done more, research and just taking the time to look at different articles and understand more and more about how the human body works, I personally think that everybody should take specific times to deload, no matter what they're doing, no matter what type of training they're doing. And not so much for the sake of like muscle mass, because you may be able to still like continuously make gains while hitting a plateau, but just for the sake of your overall health and well-being, to help prevent injuries and to just allow you to feel strong and refreshed, because the deload isn't just going to help you physically, guys. It's also going to help you mentally. It takes a lot of physical stress off of you, but a lot of mental stress as well. A lot of people don't realize the amount of stress that may actually build up over time, even mentally, for you when you're like, you know, having to constantly psych yourself up for heavy amounts of weight or to do a lot of volume. That's a lot of stress on you, both physically and mentally. And the deload just kind of allows you to kind of get away from that. Not to say that you shouldn't take your deload seriously, meaning your technique should still be on point. You should still lift the weight with the same amount of focus and intensity that you would, you know, with the heavier load. But regardless, you're just never going to be able to quite amp yourself up for squatting, you know, 225 pounds the same way that you do for 400 pounds. It's just not going to happen. And even if you do manage to do that, it's not going to impact you as much physically as what that heavier load will be. So for that reason, having planned deload sessions is just a great way of, first of all, once again, avoiding plateaus, maximizing your recovery, and then it's just good for you mentally. Like it's a good way to avoid feeling burnt out in the gym in general. A lot of people don't realize that. They think that, like, you know, oh, I'm just getting bored of what I'm doing, but really it could be that you're just getting worn out, and that's why you're not enjoying it as much. So deloads help you to get away from that. Now, for me, when it comes to a deload like this, like I said, I try to keep the focus on technique and keeping myself mentally prepared as if though I'm at an actual meet. I treat everything like it's a meet. I try to go over the commands in my head, you know, like on squat, I try to hear the squat command before I squat. On bench press, I hear the start command, the press command, the rack command. So for me, I try to keep everything in tune mentally, but once again, that's because I'm preparing for a meet. If you're someone else who's doing a deload just for the sake of deloading, it's okay if you ease off of it a little bit in the mental sense as well. Still come in and do your work and still do it well, but don't feel like you have to go in and kill it, because then you may feel like, oh, this is too light or this is too easy, and then you defeat the whole purpose of the deload by trying to bump up the weight or increase the volume, and there's just no need for that. Like, taking 1 week off, guys, and it's not even a week off, like I said, it's active recovery, is not going to hurt you. Now, mind you, some people do that for their deload. They just don't lift altogether. For me, just based off all the research shown, active recovery tends to be a lot better than sedentary recovery, and I just don't want to go a whole week without being in the gym. So for me personally, I try to avoid taking a week off and instead just have planned deloads. But one rule of thumb is, guys, if you don't want to have planned ones, is simply if you feel yourself stalling or hitting a plateau, and I mean a true plateau, like to where you've been stuck on the same sets for the same reps with the same weight on most of your movements for like 3 weeks or more, then just go ahead and deload. Anyway, hope this helped you guys out. Enjoy the rest of the video.
All right, guys, so that's pretty much it for the workout. Tony actually had to dip out right after the tricep overhead extensions because he had to go make sure he got some food before he went back to jiu-jitsu practice, and we actually cut it off after the curls anyway, just because I planned to do face pulls and lateral raises, but I'll just get those in on Wednesday because I had to hurry up and get done and get to TCU, which I'm currently at now, so I can make sure that I'm on time for my clients. But anyway, yeah, guys, all in all, day went pretty well. Everything moved fairly well. Like I explained in the voiceover, I knew I was gonna still be feeling like fatigued, just because every time I've done a prep, the first deload day always still feels kind of like just because, you know, you're still recovering from the previous week, which was the heaviest week. But Wednesday's gonna feel really good, then Friday's gonna feel even better than that, and by the time meet week's here, I should be fresh, recovered, feeling great, ready to hit some PRs and hit that 1,300 pound total. But that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a comment down below letting me know what you did. If you're not, leave a comment down below letting me know what I can do to get better. Like the video, share, subscribe, keep it simple, specific, scientific. I'll catch y'all later.